Hi, welcome to a new video. If you are new here, my name is Amandine. I've been living in Singapore for 4 years, and on this channel I like to share about anything that's happening in Singapore. Today we are going to discuss about stereotypes about Singapore. It's a discussion, so I'm going to give you my point of view, whether I think that this stereotype is true or false, but do let me know in the comment section what do you think about it. And we are going to start with the first one, which is Singapore is in China. This stereotype is obviously false. Singapore is not in China, but I think if you ask most people to point out on the map where Singapore is, they might look first closer to where China is than like Malaysia, where Singapore is actually. I remember the first time I told my parents that I was going to Singapore, they couldn't remember it, so in the end they told my entire family that I was actually going to Shanghai. So yes, if you haven't been to Singapore, you might not know where Singapore is located at. Going to show you on the map today, so now you know. We are just here, very small, just below Malaysia, not even close to China. But what we have instead in Singapore is more like an important Chinese culture influence. Here many people are speaking Chinese, many people have immigrated from China and still immigrating today from China. But Singapore, being a real multiracial, multicultural society, it's influenced by Chinese culture, but not only. That's why we can enjoy many holidays such as Chinese New Year, Hari Raya, Deepavali, and also Christmas. So yes, Singapore is composed of about 70% of Chinese, but it's not in China. Then let's discuss about the stereotype that Singapore is very authoritarian. It's a stereotype that has been prevalent for many years, largely due to the country's strong governance and strict laws. However, there are some nuances here that are important to consider. Singapore is known for its strict laws, being a fine city, which can give the impression of a highly controlled society. These include the regulation on littering, chewing gum, and other seemingly minor offenses, and around that there has been few misconceptions about the severity of the punishment in Singapore. While Singapore does have death penalty for certain crimes, is not applied to everything. Caning is also a form of punishment that is used in Singapore, but the same way is not for minor offenses such as littering. Like I heard this funny saying, Singapore is like Disneyland with death penalty. I understand the Disneyland part, but for the death penalty, I can assure you that if you come travel in Singapore, definitely the chance of you getting death penalty is very low. So overall, I do think that the stereotype is false. Next stereotype is that Singapore is very clean. So definitely if you come in Singapore, you will be struck by how clean the roads are. Everything is spotless, mostly because the government has been putting in place some anti-littering measure as well as investing on its waste management. So this stereotype is fairly true, but it's important to remember that Singapore waste disposal rely mostly on incineration, reducing the volume of waste but creating carbon emissions. So even though the city appears clean, there is all the part behind. Of course, there is a stereotype that Singapore is really expensive, but I think this one also has two sides. I really think that Singapore is able to offer a wide range of experience, both for budget conscious people, but also for people who are willing to splurge on premium experience. Definitely, if you go to the more upscale neighborhoods such as Orchard, it's gonna be more expensive. Those are to cater to high-end shopping, dining, and accommodations. Concerning food, for more affordable option, you can head to hawker centers, but also local markets. And this is something that I think about Singapore, is that even though in Singapore sometimes it might be a bit more expensive, what you get often there is a good value for money. So that's why often I don't mind spending a bit more, for example for a condo in Singapore. But there are options for everyone, even concerning housing. For experience, there are many of them that are free. Singapore has many beautiful parks where you can just go and roam around without spending a penny. So really, even though Singapore has a reputation of being expensive, I do think that there are more budget-friendly options when it comes to eating and to local experiences. And then the next stereotype is actually terrible, that people think that about Singapore, but is that Singapore has no culture and no history. Of course, it's false. I don't think there is a place in this world that has nothing to tell. In terms of cultures in Singapore, I really like to roam around Chinatown, Little India. Those two are really rich of culture, and if you want more histories, there are many museum dedicated to Singapore that you can go and visit, and then you will learn about the origin of the name Singapore, the colonial past, as well as its implication in the World War II. If you learn more about Singapore history, you will learn about many people who have really impacted the history. Lee Kuan Yew, Raffles. I'm really not an expert, but there is definitely a lot to learn, so really you cannot say that Singapore has no culture and history. And our last stereotype is that Singapore is boring, there is nothing to do. If you're on my channel, I hope to really give you ideas on where to go, because I'm really one of the person that think that Singapore is far from being boring. There is always new openings and new places to go to eat, new activities to do, new events, and there are things for everyone. I just mentioned cultural activities, but also if you just like shopping, there is a lot of malls you can go to. If you like outdoor activities, just head to Macritchie, Sentosa, Sungai Buloh Wetland Reserve. Those are places that I really like. If you like just strolling around the neighborhood, then you can go to Kampong Glam or Chong Bahru. Those are really nice. I actually compiled a list of 50 places, must-see places in Singapore if you have no idea of what to do, and like just follow me on my social, TikTok, Instagram, and here on YouTube, because I'm always sharing about new places to eat, where I go outdoor and these kind of things. So even if you think that Singapore is boring, I hope that I make it just a bit less boring. So those are all the stereotypes that we are gonna see today. I actually have a way longer list of stereotypes, but some other are more concerning Singaporeans. So do let me know if you want to see this video next. I'm afraid you will hate me on this, but I will probably do it. Thank you so much for watching today. I will see you next time. Bye bye.